Hello and welcome to the Groupthink Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Hummel. This is the 75th episode of the show, and for this special episode, we're going to be discussing the 2019 E3. Joining us is our repeat guest, Daniel Pitch, who is currently a developer at Wargaming Studios in Chicago and a former developer at High Voltage. How's it going, man?
It's going great. I'm really excited to talk about E3 again.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful time of the year if you're a video game guy, or the worst. It depends on your opinion.
That's true.
So I guess the general temperament I'm hearing from most people I've been seeing is that the people are not happy with this E3. Is that what you're hearing, or where are things on your end?
I feel like it's a mixed bag for a lot of people. I know that there were some surprises for me personally. Some stuff that I wasn't expecting to like that I ended up liking. And I was some disappointed with some things that didn't end up showing up at E3 at all. Like, even though I knew going into this year Sony wasn't going to have a panel, it still really stung that there wasn't anything Sony related up on the stage.
Yeah, that was one of the weird things. I mean, part of it raises some questions about what their strategy is and what they actually had to present. I mean, one of the criticisms I saw for everyone that wasn't Nintendo was that most of the companies didn't have that many major first-party games. Possible exception being Microsoft, because they had Halo and Gears, but
yeah.
Halo and Gears are basically the two Microsoft franchises, so
Right.
they don't have a volume. It's not going to be like last year where they had God of War and Spider-Man in the same year, and with The Last of Us 2 waiting out in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, I think that this year they didn't want to spend the money on just basically showing updates to the games they've already announced. You know, like last month we already had Death Stranding had their big, 9-minute quasi gameplay cinematic release date trailer, and I think The Last of Us 2 is just they're chugging along as fast as they can. I don't know if they want to really show a lot more until they get closer to the actual release date, whenever that is.
That's kind of surprising because it made it look like with the last E3 like they had something that was semi-playable, or at the very least they were just really good at fudging the trailer to make it look like gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that was a mix of gameplay as well as fudging stuff. But my understanding is they've had a good chunk of the game done. But Naughty Dog, they don't rest until it's 100%. And then when it's 100%, they'll probably still find stuff that they want to fix at the last second. Which is why a lot of their games turn out so spectacularly well. Like Uncharted 4, I thought was a great game. Obviously, I'm a huge Last of Us fan, so. Even though I feel like The Last of Us has been delayed and they haven't really announced it a ton, I still have faith in that they'll put out a really good game.
I mean, at this point, I would not be surprised if that was the console seller for the PS5.
Yeah, it seems like that. Like when The Last of Us launched on PS3, it was like the next year or very close to a year afterwards. They announced the PS4 was coming. And I'm wondering if the exact same thing's going to happen. They're going to have Death Stranding release end of this year, and then Last of Us maybe early next year if we're lucky. And then we'll hear about E3, about what they're going to plan for their holiday console, especially with Microsoft entering the ring with their next-gen Project Scarlet, whatever that's going to end up being.
I mean, well, Last of Us, the first one, came out in 2013, just like 6 months before the new generation.
Was it 6 months? I knew it was close. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Really close. And then they ported it within a year, and that was one of the the first actual system sellers on the PS4, which was amusing because that first couple of years was obviously there was that horrible drought on the consoles. Right.
Yeah, there wasn't any major reason to buy, I guess, a PlayStation or a Xbox if you were looking for just first party titles like God of War or Halo. You could pretty much play all the titles on PC if you already had one, or even last-gen console.
Yeah, and then now I would assume they might just hold off on that and be like, yeah, this is going to be the PS5 launch title, because I don't think they want to do what they did last time and be like, yeah, what game do you want to buy the PS4 for? Killzone Shadowfall.
Right. Yeah. That one didn't turn out as well as I was hoping, but yeah, I mean, you're totally right. That could happen, especially since Microsoft just announced Halo Infinite is going to be on Project Scarlet as a launch title. Sony's going to have to answer that at some point I'm assuming they have a kit in development. And when they announce it, they have to have a killer app, I'd say.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of I don't want to say it's predictable, but I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get some sort of special conference for Sony sometime early in 2020, where they're just going
Yeah.
to say, we have the PS5, and then E3 is going to be all about, we have the Xbox 2, or the Xbox 720, or whatever they're going to call it.
Right.
I would love it if they called it 720. That would be just
That'd be pretty good.
The most cynical thing ever. But
Right. I mean, Sony used to in the past, at least I think 2 years in a row, they did their own PlayStation experience in the end of the year, November, December. I don't think they did it last year. That if they end up announcing one for this year, if they already haven't, that they could certainly, around the time that Project Scarlet might have some more details, they might be like, all right, well, we're gonna show you what the PS5 is.
yeah, because I mean that's when they're going to have to start pushing it. It's sometime early next year, just so to kind of get the ball rolling, and then you push it hard at E3, and then have it ready to go by November.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of not having a lot to show for yourself, Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of surprises I guess not a lot of surprises that I wanted. I guess Fallout 76 getting a Battle Royale mode, that surprised me. I didn't want that, I guess.
I kind of love that they added NPCs as a expansion pack to Fallout 76.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that development cycle's like. I don't think I ever want to know, but that just sounds like it's a nightmare, honestly. Like, they're adding all this stuff that a core Fallout game has, like post-launch as DLCs and like game modes like Battle Royale. I don't think anybody has particularly asked for it in the Fallout community. I could be wrong, but that doesn't seem like a feature that people are striving to have.
I guess their logic at this point with Fallout 76 is that they already put like millions of dollars into development, so they think they're just gonna start retroactively adding things until the game gets somewhat presentable, and then be like, look how awesome the game is. We're going to release the definitive edition now. Please buy it.
Yeah, that's possible. They could end up doing that. I mean, that game was being given away, like, at least in Europe. I remember reading articles earlier this year how like you could buy any game at full price or half price, and it just came with Fallout 76 because retailers had so many just sitting in their stock.
Wow.
But they just had to they had to get rid of them because it's just taking up room in the back of the stores. So.
I mean, that's just a train wreck for Bethesda. I mean, one year they went from almost to the top of the world, depending on your opinions about Fallout 4, to the most hated company in gaming that isn't EA.
Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of the game developers and publishers like end up in these different cycles of they go from creating really good content that fits their core model, and then they try something like Fallout 76, where I think they had good intentions or they wanted to try something, but I think the development of it was a little bit more insane than they thought. So they just had to get out the door at some point and try to recoup money, while also at the same time planning for the future to make the game what it actually should have been out the door in the first place. Which isn't, I don't think that's a good idea, but I think that's ultimately what happened with that game.
The Anthem method, if you will.
Yeah, the Anthem method, where Anthem seems to be just falling off the cliff much quicker than I think Fallout 76.
Well, Anthem didn't have the advantage of a name brand. I mean, it had the advantage of a name studio being the guys who's like, the guys from Mass Effect and Dragon Age, they're gonna make a Destiny style game, and that was the appeal of that. But I don't think that studio has enough goodwill to do that, even with as much goodwill as they have from Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Yeah,
and I think that, well, especially after Andromeda, right? Like, if Andromeda came out and that was just another great Mass Effect game that wasn't buggy and didn't have a lot of repetitive gameplay towards the end, then I think Anthem might have sold well, a little bit better. But yeah, I read a couple of the Kotaku articles and other development stories on Anthem, and that also sounds like it was a nightmare, where it's trying to retrofit a game engine that was based off of Battlefield, Frostbite, to make it this semi-persistent MMO RPG style game. That doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear from the way they rushed Andromeda that Anthem was the game they were putting all their eggs in that basket, and with the hopes that was going to be their big thing.
Right, they're trying to launch a new IP that they could, sustain for a while and keep building off of. Yeah, definitely.
And somehow it was missing things at launch. It was just missing so much.
Yeah, I remember I played the open beta, and wasn't a fan of it. But just following the updates and seeing what has come out, it's not very encouraging to anybody who actually enjoys the game in terms of like quality content drops coming out.
Yeah, I mean, that and Apex Legends, I think all the better things that EA has done this year have been like slowly walked back on just by the fact that they haven't been keeping the updates consistent.
Yeah, Apex Legends is interesting because that dropped one day randomly. All of a sudden, everybody on Twitch was playing this game called Apex Legends, and Respawn put out a new trailer, or a trailer, the first trailer. And I caught on like wildfire, and I'm actually a big fan of that game. I like what they've done with their mechanics and introducing respawns that feel good, and the 3v3 combat. All of it feels really good, but yeah, their lack of quality content, their battle pass, combined with like no way to level up your battle pass outside of grinding for hours and thousands of battles, that was really a turnoff. I'm hoping their season 2 really turns it around, but we'll see.
Well, it's clear that Respawn, for all of their incredible talent, are not Epic, and that they're not just putting all of their efforts into maintaining the weekly updates that kept Fortnite the most successful game in the last decade.
Yeah, well, like Fortnite also started off similarly, because I remember I bought the PvE version to save the world because I was really excited for that, and obviously there was no content or concept of the Battle Royale version at that time. So I bought that, played a lot of it for about a month and a half, and then stopped. And then the Battle Royale came out, and I remember playing it, and it was super bare bones, right? There was no battle pass, there wasn't anything. It was just drop in. There was long queue times because no one was playing it, and then they slowly realized what they needed to do was, create that game loop that feels good when you're playing it, but also something to work towards outside with their battle pass and free challenges and skins and stuff like that. So, if Respawn, is able to do that, which seems like they're trying to do, I think that Apex will have like a little bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, and back to the Bethesda stuff.
Yeah.
What is their logic with holding off Starfield and Elder Scrolls as long as they have at this point?
I think that they don't have like a demo to show. I feel like every time they announce a game, they always want to try to they always show a lot of content for it versus like concept art pieces and like here's what the game will end up being type of situation. I would have loved to hear more on Starfield at least, because Elder Scrolls 6 I kind of understand what I'm going to get. It's going to be an Elder Scrolls experience. It's probably going to be really good. But Starfield, that really intrigues me, and I was hoping that they would give us something, even if it was what I just said they probably wouldn't have done. Is like, here's some concept art, and like, here's what you'll expect to see in the future when we release a full trailer or whatever.
It kind of feels like they're dragging it out, though. I mean, like, I know that the older games, there used to be a longer wait time between them, but now it feels like we got into that really good period between like 2006 and 2011 where you got like a Bethesda game every 2 years, albeit one using the same extremely clunky engine, but
right.
Well, at least it felt like there was a consistent flow. And then you went 4 years between Skyrim and Fallout 4, and now it's been 3.5 years since Fallout 4.
Right.
And it feels like, is the fact that they're working on simultaneously Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls 6, and Starfield just completely chewing up all their resources and slowing them all down, or?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that certainly could be it, because if I remember correctly, they were talking about how they wanted to like upgrade their engine, especially for Starfield, to make it like a truly next-gen game. And if you talk about upgrading an engine, that takes a long time. Like, or you invest all of your resources into making it happen as quickly as possible, and that doesn't seem to have happened, right? Because we have Fallout 76, we have them talking about they are working on Elder Scrolls 6, they are working on Starfield, and they might have other stuff that they're trying to do that we don't know about. So yeah, that's probably all slowing them down quite significantly.
I'm just sitting over here in the corner being like, I would totally just play another game on the Skyrim engine, or the Fallout 3 engine, because I like those games. I'm like, I don't care if it looks like crap. I just want another one of these games already.
Yeah, as long as it's not like super buggy like Fallout 76 where it's like unplayable at points or you can't even log into the server. If it's a single player experience that is like some of the other Fallout games or Skyrim, then yeah, that'd be fine.
I'm afraid Bethesda's going to lose the plot on this, and they're gonna try to make something that looks like the first like the highest triple tier like AAA games that are coming out, but they're just going to keep dumbing it down, and they're going to keep putting the technology before the actual story that they've done, like they did with like Fallout 4, which I liked the game a lot, but that game it was not as deep as any of the previous ones.
Yeah, it seemed like they had a lot of like interesting, like interesting like side systems, like the whole base building aspect, which I think they made that for Fallout 4 as a proof of concept for Fallout 76, because you can now build bases in Fallout 76. It stays in this semi-persistent server type of situation. Whereas, in Fallout 4, I actually stopped playing it because the story was it stopped becoming interesting to me.
I played it to the end of the story, and then I realized I picked the worst ending.
That's the worst. That's terrible.
Well, I didn't realize until after the end that I wasn't supposed to be on the side of the Brotherhood of Steel. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh wait, I just blew up the nice progressively minded people that are trying to resurrect the wasteland because I didn't want to. It's like, oh, oopsie daisy, I should have sided with the Terminators.
Yeah, who would have thought the Terminators would have been the actual faction to side with, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh no, I alienated my only son because I couldn't get over the fact that I liked the Brotherhood of Steel from Fallout when I was playing Fallout 3.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of love that Outer Worlds is like running circles around everything that Bethesda is trying to do.
Oh yeah, that's one of the games that when they first announced it a couple of months ago, I was very excited for, and I'm still very excited for that. Especially, I remember in their first trailer, they were like, from the creators of Fallout and Fallout New Vegas, like just straight up saying, this is the game that you want Bethesda to make, but they're not going to make it, so here you go.
That is such a goofy troll. I love it. I mean, if they can make a whole series out of that, and Fallout just kind of falls off the face of the planet, I can live with a really good Outer Worlds series in its place.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the trailer from this E3 for that game, it looked like Fallout New Vegas, like mechanics, but in space, and with like a better graphical quality, and I want that game. That's a recipe that I will happily buy. Yeah,
that's on my short list for the things I'm going to be tracking down this fall. Mm-hmm. That and Borderlands 3 and probably Doom Eternal. I mean, yeah. What else have we talked about in the actual conferences? We didn't touch on Cyberpunk, which was the big reveal of the Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft had that one, which I guess makes sense because, I mean, where else would CD Projekt Red do it? I feel like they could have done it with Sony if Sony was there, but I mean, the fact that Keanu Reeves came on stage was pretty great. I'm usually a little leery whenever they add like the complete look and persona of a well-known actor into a game. Like when Nathan Fillion was in, what was that, Halo 5, it was like unnerving because I couldn't see him as anything other than the guy from Firefly that I can't even remember his character name.
Yeah.
But Keanu feels like he could fit in this cyber universe because he's been in the Matrix, he's John Wick, he's this badass who shoots guns and asks questions later for the most part. So that feels like it's a really good casting choice, honestly.
I'm a little unnerved by it. I mean, I saw the Death Stranding trailer, and I'm like, okay, this is a gimmick. I mean, you have Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro doing creepily realistic facial acting. And I'm like, okay, this is just a gimmick. Then it slowly dawned on me that this is going to become like the next thing for every single AAA game that's going to come out in the next 10 years. I'm like,
oh, probably.
Oh gosh.
I do agree with Death Stranding though. That Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro just being in there is weird, and that's a great example of what I was talking about earlier, where like the casting choices of this real world actor in a game can feel weird. The only person in Death Stranding that I think is a good casting choice is Mads Mikkelsen, and that's because Mads Mikkelsen is like usually an intimidating guy in whatever he plays, and since he's like what seems to be the villain, I can buy that. But Norman Reedus carrying around a baby, I don't know, that doesn't feel right.
I'm all for weird things. Like I love Ellen Page in Last of Us is great, but she's also kind of they clearly blended her facial features in with the character, so you get her performance and something that doesn't entirely feel like her. So she's just giving a good performance, and when you have the ultra realistic facial features, that you can definitely tell they're playing off of the celebrity aspect, and I'm like.
Yeah.
How much when I get Cyberpunk 2077 next year, how much am I going to be able to get over the fact that is unequivocally Keanu Reeves?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it might not be as much of a problem with something like Death Stranding, where it's clear that everything is just supposed to be weird for the sake of weird, or weird for the sake of some sort of immensely complex metaphor. That game theory is just gonna have a complete field day with that.
That's gonna be great for them, yeah.
But other than that, I don't foresee that ending particularly well. I mean,
yeah, it'll be interesting. It's got Hideo Kojima behind it, and I'm a big fan of his, obviously, Metal Gear Solid. And I love the PT demo, what he did with that. And I really wish that was going to become an actual game. That Silent Hill demo. But
I heard tangentially that most of PT is being translated into Death Stranding, so it's not like a complete rebuild of the. It's at least partially what they were going to go for with that.
Well, if that's the case, then hell yeah, I'm even more excited for Death Stranding then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Silent Hills would have been cool just to have that name brand behind it. But Konami is. Well, I don't know if Konami just kicked him out because Konami is bad, or because I'd heard some weird allegations that he wasn't a particularly good CEO. But Konami's just not a well-run company, so who knows?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag of like what actually happened. I don't think anybody has the full picture, but it's regardless, it's unfortunate that tie was severed in such a way that it's never going to be repaired.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, okay, going down the list. Did you watch Ubisoft? I didn't. That was the one.
I did.
That was like one of the few I didn't actually get around to watching this year.
Yeah, I've actually really been into the Ubisoft games lately, and their E3 press conferences have been pretty good in my opinion. So their big thing was Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which I think looks great. I was not a fan of Ghost Recon Wildlands. Actually, never really played a ton of it just because it felt like a generic, like, all right, you're going to Colombia, I think, and you're fighting drug smugglers. Well, okay, that feels pretty generic, but now that we've got this more fantastical sci-fi setting with like a drone island and an ex-military unit is taking it over to try to like take on the world essentially, that sounds pretty interesting to me.
I played Future Soldier, which I regretted. I played the beta for Wildlands,
yeah,
which was really fun for about 5 hours, and then you realize that you're literally just doing the same thing over and over again. You just sneak into a encampment with friends, assassinate people, then run away and hope the cartel doesn't catch you, or at the very least, jump into a helicopter and fly until the cartel stops chasing you.
Right.
So I did not. I realized very quickly that I was not going to want to buy the game, so I didn't. But if that's cool, I'm all for a better Ghost Recon game, because
it's been a while.
The qualitative arc of that franchise is all over the place, and we could always use more good Tom Clancy games.
Yeah, I mean, they announced their DLC, a little bit more detail for Rainbow Six Siege, which, I mean, Siege is like, just the fact that it's still going strong is pretty amazing. I think it's a pretty good game, and I'll certainly try the DLC out once the two operators once they're out.
I mean, good for them. It's one of those games, I guess, that I remember it got announced right before the new generation, and it had such a troubled start just getting off the ground, and now I'm glad it's managed to evolve into something that can actually sustain.
Yeah, I mean, when it launched, it didn't do very well. I remember it didn't do well financially or critically. You know, there wasn't a lot of content, but then everything that they've added since then has been free. Like, you can unlock all the operators by grinding out currency in game, or you can pay up front to get them, like League of Legends style. And the community has responded really well to that, being able to play all this content for free essentially, or support the dev team and pay $40 for a full year of content.
So that's where that is. It free to play?
So no, the game, right? I think it's like super discounted. Like, you can buy a version of it for $15, and then all the content afterwards is free. But every year, if you wanted to, you could spend, I think it's $40, and you get all the content that comes out for free. You have to buy it essentially. So all the operators, you get discounts in the shop, and you get bonus XP whenever you play a match. So stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I'll be honest. As I said, I didn't watch the Ubisoft one,
right.
So there wasn't a lot of new stuff that was particularly into it. I've never been into Assassin's Creed or anything, so that particular style of sandbox never really appealed to me. Although I will say, Ubisoft has done a very good job of staying away from all the worst things that are happening in the industry right now. I genuinely appreciate that in a way I cannot appreciate what EA is doing.
Yeah, I think everyone goes through their cycles of providing really good stuff that everybody loves, and stuff that people might not like. I remember, Ubisoft was cranking out an Assassin's Creed game every single year, like faster than Call of Duty, and it was overwhelming. People were like, "Why is this happening? Why is Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Assassin's Creed Rogue and Assassin's Creed Liberation all releasing in the same year? Like, you expect us to buy 3 of the same game?"
Good lord. I mean, I'm
right.
glad now they're every other year, right?
Yes, I think it's even longer now, because it's like every 2 to 3 years, I want to say, because Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out, I want to say last year, I'm pretty sure, and they didn't announce an Assassin's Creed this year, so the earliest we might get one is end of 2020, so that'll be about 2 years.
Wow. I mean, I respect them for doing that. Obviously, they realized that something wasn't working, and it takes a lot in the modern industry to be able to say, maybe we shouldn't do that. Which is weird. I mean, I'm looking over at EA, and I'm like, I actively don't want to support any of their games at the moment, even though the Fallen Order looks pretty okay.
Yeah, something with Fallen Order, I think that sums it up. It looks pretty okay. I was expecting it to look a lot better than what I saw personally. The combat itself, it didn't look super thrilling. A lot of it looked, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It didn't look very complex to what I was expecting. It also felt a little bit like my experience when I watched Star Wars, the Han Solo movie, where it was a lot of nostalgia thrown in for nostalgia reasons. Like, your commander in Fallen Order is Saw Gerrera, and you're going to rescue Chewbacca, and there's K2SO that pops up. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah, I could see problems with that. I mean, just in general, it's probably just a problem, the fact that they put Respawn in charge of that game when they probably should have put Visceral in charge of that game before they closed them. They really needed an adventure game studio making an adventure game, and nope, they're going to put it in the shooter studio.
Yeah, it certainly could be, I guess, chalked up to that. First time experience making a AAA game under the Star Wars brand, and it's not in the genre that you're known for. Because, I mean, Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2 are both really good games, and Titanfall 2 is one of the best FPS I've played in a very long time, especially when you consider their single-player campaign was excellent. But yeah, trying to pivot from that experience to now an action RPG, I fully expect the set pieces and the quality of the game, the feel of it to be great, but I feel like the combat is going to suffer a bit.
I'm afraid that they might try pulling the studio closure on Respawn if that doesn't do well, and if Respawn doesn't, or if Apex Legends doesn't pick up.
Yeah, I don't know how well Apex Legends is doing, in terms of, financially. I feel like Fallen Order is going to, if they didn't close DICE, if they didn't even lay off people from DICE for Star Wars Battlefront 2, quote, underperforming, I feel like they're not gonna close Respawn. The Titanfall franchise is too important to EA, even if they don't have anything being actively worked on right now.
Well, DICE at least has I think DICE is kind of the load-bearing studio for EA, because they tend to take the most flack in terms of just producing whatever EA wants them to, with the notable exception of Battlefield 1. They just crank something out every year, every other year, they make their corporate overlords happy, and then they let EA take the brunt of the criticism whenever something like the loot box controversy happens. I don't think you could take DICE out without completely destroying EA. Like, even BioWare, you could tangentially imagine that Anthem does so much damage to BioWare that EA is just like, yeah, we're gonna just go ahead and close them down now. They're just not worth anything to us, even though they could be directing a KOTOR game for the KOTOR movie coming out in 4 years.
Right. Yeah, they'll never close DICE, but I guess more or less what I was thinking was, even if they didn't lay off anybody, they still are expanding DICE LA to work on like DLC for Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5. That's what that studio primarily does. So I don't think they'll close Respawn, because I think Respawn is the other half of EA's future. Because you have DICE that is basically the Battlefield franchise, and they are the entire engine creators and supporters for Frostbite, which every studio is using except for Respawn.
I mean, you can't. That's the problem, I think, with Respawn, though. The last 2 Titanfall games were moderate successes. Neither one of them were enormous. I mean, everyone who's played them will tell you Titanfall 2 is one of the best games this generation, but
Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't do that well when it was being released in conjunction with Battlefield 1 on one end and Call of Duty on the other.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. That was a huge mistake on EA's part. I think at that point Respawn had no ability to move that launch date. And I think that actually may have played a part in when Apex Legends just randomly shadow dropped one day. I feel like that Respawn has that much, like, they proved that they could make Titanfall 1 a great game that sold pretty well for what it was on Xbox One and PC, I believe. And then they made Titanfall 2, which was critically acclaimed, nominated for Game of the Year, type awards. And they were able to just say, hey, we're not releasing this game like you want us to. We're going to release it when we know it's ready to go. And that's why it may have taken so long to get out the door.
And that seems like part of the calculation with Apex Legends. It feels like the kind of game that EA came to them and said, oh, look, Fortnite's doing really well. You have a halfway completed first-person shooter engine. Why don't you turn it into a battle royale, and then we can release it for free and make some money and just generate in that. And just alongside Anthem, which they hoped would also be a huge money generator.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't think that happened with Apex is because they didn't have a very good monetization scheme to begin with. Like, when Apex launched, there was no battle pass. There wasn't a good way to buy skins at the time. All you could buy were loot boxes. And I think, arguably, most people think that the base content for Apex, like the skins, weren't worth buying, a $2 loot box over. It wasn't, I think, until the battle pass came out where they started just raking in gobs of money immediately. And also, a lot of the hype with, like, a lot of streamers buying loot boxes, getting some of their followers to buy into the content did help. But I think if the game came out and it was super microtransaction like Star Wars Battlefront 2 was going to be, then I would totally agree. EA was like, we're gonna make a battle royale, we're gonna make it a first-person shooter made by Respawn, and we're gonna microtransaction the hell out of it and make a bunch of Monopoly money.
I mean, you gotta remember, they wanted to put they're still working on a battle royale for Battlefield 5 if they already haven't released it. And they were talking about that last E3.
Yeah, that's been released since March. Their Firestorm mode for Battlefield. They haven't added any monetization aspects to the Firestorm specifically. They have added, like, in-game skins and hero characters to play as, but they haven't done anything like as drastic as Star Wars Battlefront 2, where it's like, buy a loot box to try to get Darth Vader, or grind him out for 12,000 hours, and then you'll get Darth Vader eventually.
Gosh, that's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I will say, though, that from Ubisoft, the other thing I really did like was Watch Dogs Legion. I didn't play Watch Dogs 2 because I didn't like Watch Dogs 1, but this one looks really cool with the ability to play as any character in the world. There is no, like, main protagonist. You can pick whoever you want, and they have a special skill that helps the overall storyline. I think that's a really cool concept, and if they pull it off, that sounds like a game I've never played before.
Kind of got a V for Vendetta vibe to it.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. That's a good point.
Was there anything else?
The last thing that I was really hyped for, it's Animal Crossing. Because I've been a fan of Animal Crossing since I was a child.
Well, we're jumping to Nintendo.
Yeah, Ubisoft, that was about it for me.
No South Park game, darn it.
Yeah, no South Park game. And the last two were really good, too. I enjoyed them.
Anyway, Nintendo, the clear winner of the show, sort of.
Yeah, Animal Crossing is my number one. I am a huge fan of the series. I hate what they did with the mobile version, and that's why I was so excited for the true, successor to the franchise coming out on Switch. And they didn't show us much. It was like a 2-minute trailer, and then they released, like, a day ago, a 30-minute gameplay demo, and it looks really cool. You can, looks like there's multiplayer finally. You can build anywhere on the island that you want. There's a lot of cool content that I think they're gonna have, and it's really got me excited.
Yeah, I'm mostly happy with Nintendo at the moment. I like that they're basically becoming like a port machine for everything I want to play. It's like, I never got around to beating Witcher 3. Now it's a great chance to take it wherever I want to go. Now I got Cuphead just last month. I've been working on that for a month. I mean, I would not be surprised if they just start turning into, like, Microsoft ports now that they're best friends.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll ever see Halo on Switch.
I am so hoping we get the Master Chief Collection on Switch.
That would be pretty crazy.
I imagine we're probably going to get Banjo-Kazooie on Switch before...
That's what I'm looking for. I need that in my life, for sure. I need the Rare Replay Collection on Switch immediately.
I would not be surprised if we got an announcement for Banjo 3 within the next year. just because
Banjo 3 would be awesome too.
Because
yeah.
if this gets released on the on Smash and he becomes the most popular player, that's going to tell Microsoft quite a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't think they could sell it on the Xbox One quite as well, but Banjo 3 on the Switch, that would be a perfect match. And my only real problem with what's going on with Nintendo at the moment is I think they hit the Switch way too hard out the gate with like their biggest releases ever. And so everything that they've released since has been just ports and the second tier games. And really the biggest, most anticipated stuff they've got on the horizon right now is Metroid Prime 4 and Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Which, that might probably be the biggest thing they're going to have this generation, if and whenever that comes out. And until then, they've got stuff like Luigi's Mansion 3. So it's going to be a lot of mid-tier games and then endless ports.
Yeah, the endless ports is really surprising. I can go onto my Switch any day and find 12 more ports just sitting there in the store. It's insane. I was also really shocked to see, Witcher 3 on Switch. How's that going to run in handheld? We'll see. But yeah, for the AAA, the big first-party titles for Nintendo, I think that some other ones that will be coming out, you have Pokemon Sword and Shield. I think that'll be pretty big for the console.
I keep forgetting about it because I don't play Pokemon all that much, but
yeah, and I feel like there's Pokemon fatigue, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't played one since a while.
Yeah, if you're not actively into Pokemon, I'm sure if you are actively into Pokemon, this is the year. This is the game you want to play. This is going to be 2019's game like Smash was the year before it, and like Mario was the year before that. But I'm just sitting here like, I get Mario Maker 2 this year, and then I have to wait till next year. I'm like,
I play Pokemon Go still, but as I start releasing more the generations of Pokemon that I have no idea what they are, and they look just weird compared to what their original looked like, in my opinion, I feel like that's why I stopped playing the Pokemon games. They could be still selling millions. I'm not sure.
They are. It seems they're nuts.
It makes sense. There's always people clamoring for Pokemon at all ages. So I feel like that's going to do really well this holiday for Nintendo. And then Animal Crossing next year. And then after that, really, yeah, you're right. All there is so far is Metroid Prime 4, and then whenever Breath of the Wild 2 releases, which I don't think that's going to be for a while.
Yeah, I mean, they just said that it's in development, which is like, I assume is like newspeak for it's going to come out in about 4 years.
Yeah, because Breath of the Wild they revamped that. They started that game over multiple times before they figured out the formula that they wanted. That's something Nintendo does pretty well nowadays, is if they think a game isn't going in the right direction, they'll say, all right, we're done developing it, and we're going to go to a different format, or we're going to change up what we have now and drastically change the game to try out something new and see if it's fun.
And they're public about it. I love the fact that they said Metroid Prime 4 is not going the way we like it, and they just put that video out and being like, they completely owned it. I wish every studio in video gaming would just own it the way Nintendo does. I respect them so much because they just said, "Oh, we don't like the development cycle, and we don't want to release a bad game, so we're starting over."
Yeah, definitely. They did that with Animal Crossing too, and because it was supposed to release like fall this year, like in a couple of months, and in their video they're like, "We didn't like how the polish of the game looked. Essentially, we want to make sure it's the Animal Crossing experience that everybody's been waiting for, so we're going to give it 6 more months, and it'll release next year."
Yeah, really, if I'm smart, what I need to do is just turn my Switch into an RPG machine and just do nothing but like play, okay, Dragon Quest XI's coming out, play Dark Souls, play Witcher 3, finish Skyrim, Dragon's Dogma. I really should just play the excruciatingly long RPGs and just fill out my years with that while I'm waiting for something else big. I mean, that's really just the best use of the Switch at the moment.
Yeah, the Switch for me is the same for RPGs, but I also love playing like turn-based tactical games. I feel that's like the perfect platform for it, where I don't have to sit in front of my PC and play Civ 5 for 6 hours straight to play a match. I can play it, on my Switch, pause it, play it in bed, play it on my couch, take it wherever I want.
What I would give for XCOM on the Switch.
Oh god, yes, that'd be great. One day, I'm sure that's gonna get ported. I'm sure it will.
That'd be a little bit of a weird port, but that would be very good.
I mean, they've ported it to mobile, and I'm pretty sure it's on PlayStation Vita, so I'm sure that they could make it work pretty well on Switch.
Did you ever play Octopath?
I own it, but I have not yet. I haven't started it. There's just been so many games that have taken up my attention.
That's one of those games like Bravely Default. Everyone I know who cares about that sort of thing tells me to play, and I just never get around to, and I feel guilty for it.
Yeah, I have games like that. Octopath isn't one like that for me. I haven't beaten Breath of the Wild, so that's what makes me guilty the most, because everybody at work...
I haven't started Breath of the Wild.
Okay, so yeah, like I've only played like 3 hours.
I feel so bad about that. I mean, cards on the table. I did not start playing Zelda until I was already an adult, and I got.
That's the same with me. Yeah.
I got excruciatingly annoyed. I bought Ocarina of Time for the 3DS. I got into the 3DS really late. I bought it just so I could buy Samus Returns when that came out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back and play Ocarina of Time because I never played it. I got all the way up until Link was an adult, started the Forest Temple, and I got extremely annoyed because I couldn't find one collectible I needed to pass, and I gave up, and I haven't touched it in about a year, and I'm like, how am I supposed to play Breath of the Wild if I couldn't finish Ocarina of Time?
Right.
I mean, like, what I really need to do is just go back and finish Ocarina of Time with an excruciatingly, like, explanatory guide, and just be like, okay, go here, go here, go here, go here, done. Go, and then I can just finish Ocarina in maybe 5-10 hours, maybe, and then be like, okay, I've beaten Ocarina of Time, the one everyone tells me to play. Now I'm gonna play the one that everyone else tells me to play.
Yeah,
because
knock them both out.
Because then I'll have something to do with a Switch for the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's definitely the game for me that everybody at work is like, oh my god, Breath of the Wild's the best game ever. I can't wait for the sequel, and I'm just like, well, I haven't beaten it. I've barely played most of it, but I'm happy you guys are excited.
It's such a bad game if you want to like sample games. Like if you want to be like, if you're like, I have such a laissez-faire attitude about games. I just want to get a broad swath of what the game is like, get to the end, and then move on to something else. And that game is so counterproductive to that attitude because it's like, you can beat the game in 5 minutes if you want, but you're gonna have the worst boss fight ever, having to face off Ganondorf with the starter weapon. And it's like, oh, you're supposed to just fall into the world and enjoy it. I'm like, okay, that's great if you want to invest 500 hours of your life into it. That's great. I'll just go back to playing Cuphead.
I mean, Cuphead's great on the Switch too, so I like playing that as well.
And anyway, that covers most of the big stuff coming out. What's your best in show for games coming out then?
It's a good question. You know, I think it's hard for me to say best in show. I think my most pleasant surprise was honestly Watch Dogs Legion, and I can't believe I'm saying that out loud because I did not like Watch Dogs 1 at all. I stopped playing probably 10 hours into it. Didn't play Watch Dogs 2 as a result. But this looks so cool. Like, the concept is not just, you're hacking the world and, doing these, messing around with NPCs. You are becoming anyone in the world, and they have a specific thing that can help you in the overall story. And when those characters die, they're gone forever. You can't play them again. And other characters that you've played or you interact with will be like, oh, I can't believe, Chris died. It's terrible. That just sounds really cool. I think a close second for me is Animal Crossing, just because it has a place in my heart until I die.
Oh, I should go back and play New Leaf. Everyone and their mother has told me New Leaf is just the cutest thing.
Oh, it's super cute, and it's on. It's portable. I've been waiting for them to just port that Switch, just say to Shadow Drop. Hey, we put New Leaf on Switch. Enjoy.
I mean, I have my 3DS now, and it's going underused. Yeah. I probably should just get it on that and play through that for a little while.
Yeah, that's a very fun experience.
All right. What is the just as my last question for this? What is the general buzz from inside the Beltway as working at a gaming studio about where the state of the industry is right now? What's everyone saying about next gen and how work is coming along right now?
Yeah, I mean, so next gen, everyone's like really excited. Honestly, I have no idea what next gen is. Like, even if I knew and I couldn't tell you, like, specs. I'm not asking
for secret. Yeah. I'm not that important.
No, I know. I wish I knew though, because like when they announced Project Scarlet, I was like, oh man, we're gonna see it. I've heard about it, but I don't know what this is. And they didn't tell us anything, right? They're like, oh, it's gonna have an SSD. It's gonna be a beast of a machine. We'll tell you more later.
I imagine developer kits are probably gonna start going on about it within the next year or so. So.
I mean, hopefully we got one at Wargaming. That'd be nice to get port World of Tanks over to the next gen type of thing. But I think overall everybody at work was pretty excited for everything they saw. I mean, I had I had friends and coworkers who were like jumping up and down for almost all the stuff Nintendo announced. Animal Crossing, the Banjo-Kazooie DLC for Smash, Breath of the Wild 2. Everybody was raving about it. A lot of people were really excited about Cyberpunk 2077. People were jumping on board the Watch Dogs train with me. We're going straight to the hype station with that. And, I don't think a lot of perceptions changed. I think everybody was like, "Oh, Nintendo put out a really good E3 again." We're not shocked. Ubisoft put out a pretty good E3 again, where it's here's more updates to their franchises. Nothing new. And then Microsoft's kind of just doing their Microsoft thing, where it's like, here's your standard first party titles. Here's Gears again. You guys want more Gears, right? How about Halo? Of course we got Halo.
I mean, I'm that one guy that'll buy the Scorpio for Halo, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Master Chief Collection on Steam here this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Halo Infinite is. See if I'm gonna buy a Project Scarlet kit, whatever that's gonna be called.
I just want Halo on Switch, and I can retreat to my room and never have to interact with the outside world ever again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the dream.
All right, I think that covers the broad swath of E3. Do you have any other thoughts on it, or?
No, but before we call this, what was your best in show, out of curiosity?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, obviously the big ones, Cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm tempted to say Doom Eternal offhand, just because that's kind of the game that's got me the most excited of everything. Obviously, there's a couple big games I'm gonna jump on this fall, like Borderlands 3 and Outer Worlds, but Doom Eternal is the one I'm just sitting at looking at super excited. My only worry about it might be that I'm not sure if the Switch port's gonna be as good as the normal one, because I'm kind of leaning towards getting the Switch one just for convenience. But I mean, obviously, after how great the last Doom was, I'm super excited for that one.
Yeah, I agree. Doom Eternal does look really good. Have not played the Doom port on Switch, so if that's good, I'm assuming that they can make Eternal run pretty well on Switch.
I'm a little. This will be the last thing I say, but I'm a little iffy about cross-gen games at the moment, considering how bad that used to be between Xbox and Wii. They would have to develop a completely separate game for the Wii. And nowadays, they're okay, it looks mostly like it. Skyrim looks almost exactly like Skyrim enhanced for the PC. So what exactly is the difference here in terms of the power of the game? Because I'm sitting here where is the downside of this, and why am I worried? And why am I not more worried about this?
Right.
I mean, I just don't want to have to deal with Force Awakens for the Wii again, where it's completely different. But. Right. But yeah, that's overall. I'd say there's a lot to look forward to, even though the general atmosphere around E3 this year was kind of dour.
Yeah, definitely stuff to look forward to. Yeah, I think it was kind of a mixed bag this year. If there's stuff you were interested in before, you'll be happy. If you're looking for new stuff, you're not going to be that happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway was just generally there's a lot of games I want to play, which is not the takeaway
definitely.
that everyone else seemed to get. So.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. I'll probably see you next E3.
All right, sounds great.
All right, have a good night.
You too.